Good morning. We have a highly selected group of marriages which are over 15 years, or 50 years.
Over 15 too.
Over 50. And we'd like to just talk about how things have been. Not as ideals or how to do it, but just the way things are. If you get nothing out of our panel, we will be passing out secrets for a happy marriage at the end of the service. A couple statistics before we get started. The divorce rate in our country right now is said to be about 36%, so that's better than a few years ago when we were all told that 1 out of every 2 marriages ended in divorce. But only about 50% of people marry now. And I guess there's a lot of reasons for that, cohabitation, etc. 6% of marriages in our country, according to the 2010 census, were over 50 years. But guess how many over 50-year marriages are in this congregation? Shelley has shown me some data on that. Over 80. Over 80. Some represented by only one person now because of death. But over 80 in this congregation. It's amazing. How many here have been married over 50 years? Over 60. Over 60. Stand up, please. Thank you. But it's impressive. So, and Shelley wanted me to mention that the videotaping today will be put on what?
We always post our forums on the website. You can find them under videos and resources. We have a link on the forum page. But we want to make sure that you know our presenters are gracious to tell their stories. But if you have stories you want to share and you're afraid that your in-laws or children might see them online, we can always edit those out.
Okay, thank you. Well, let me get started right with the nitty-gritty here. Introduce yourselves and how long you've been married, please.
I'm Addie and Dwayne Murray, and we've been married 59 years.
And you folks?
We're Claire and June Warren, and we've also been married 59 years.
And how about you, ma'am?
Bob and Nancy Morris. We have been married 55 years.
But it seems like 59, right? What'd you do yesterday for Valentine's Day?
We played bridge in the afternoon. We played bridge in the evening.
Okay, how about you?
We went out to breakfast with some neighbors, but last night we stayed at home and had just a quiet dinner, a very special dinner, and I made pot de creme for dessert.
Ooh. What did you do?
Well, we watched 7-year-olds play basketball. That's always entertaining. And then we visited and delivered some Valentines to grandchildren. And then we had a dinner at home. And 20 below zero, Bob, to show you how insane a psychiatrist can be, he grilled them outside. And then we watched a Coen movie with typical Coen humor. That was our celebration.
Do you remember your first Valentine's Day together?
No.
You, June?
I'm not sure that we were actually together, but we had just started dating in January of our senior year in high school. So our first time, and we might have even had a date that first Valentine's Day. I don't remember, but that is exactly when we started dating, that time of year.
How about you? They're trying to remember over here.
Get the story straight. You get the story.
Do you remember your first Valentine's Day?
I'm going to pass on that.
Dwayne remembers though.
I can't remember anything from yesterday.
You?
This is your question.
That's my question. Well, we talked about that yesterday, and neither one of us remember early Valentine's days. I guess it was not a big thing for us, right? How long did you know each other before getting married?
About 8 months.
Can you tell us a little bit about the circumstances?
These questions are unrehearsed. I was a single girl. And I worked in a hospital in Minneapolis, and I think everybody thought I wasn't going to get married. So everybody had a son or a brother or a friend. And I went out on so many blind dates that you couldn't believe it. I was in so many weddings, my brother said to me, once a bridesmaid, never a bride. I came home to save money and work in the little local hospital. And my sister said to me, are you going to get a lot of blind dates here? And I said, oh, the nurses are all young. They won't have any sons. And so I worked and I went home, and then I worked the next day and I went home and sat with my parents. And then someone came up to me and said, how's your nightlife? And she said, I have a friend.
There was the friend. Yeah. Any comments, Dwayne? Do you still not remember?
It's too hard to follow.
And how long have you folks been married? I mean, know each other?
Well, we had sort of superficial knowledge that each other existed back in high school, but really our connection started in high school. We had a strong interest in music, as you can imagine, and then our first date was the week that my youngest brother was born. That still seems odd to me. But then we went on to graduate from the same high school, same class, and then June went off to Oberlin College in Ohio to get her eventual degree, and I went to Flint Junior College for a couple of years, and then down to the University of Michigan for another 5 years, ended up with a degree in dentistry. So that's how long we knew.
He wrote to me every day while I was in college. This was for I'm not kidding you, 4 years every day I had a letter from him. And I know, you know, you have cell phones these days. I'm sure that's what you do. You call. But back in those days, it was a big deal.
Did you?
We've all been burned now.
You didn't save a single one of those?
That is a really high.
Ooh. Nancy, we had an interesting beginning. Her mother was a fourth grade teacher in International Falls when I was in 4th grade. And clever boy that I was, I discovered that she had a cute blonde daughter who was in 3rd grade, who would come up to meet her mother at the end of the day. So I became the board washer for the class. And coincidentally, that was the year my migraine headaches began.
My mother always said that in her 31 years of teaching, she never had a more willing board washer. But we didn't, we were friends, so we have been friends since those years. But we didn't start dating until we were in college. We went around in the same group of kids as you do in a small town, and our parents were friends, so we knew each other, and we were both at the University of Minnesota, and one summer, after a couple of years there, we were back home working, and mutually bored. There wasn't much to do, so we started going to movies and going out to the lake, etc., and that's one thing led to another, so that's, you kind of marry a friend, which is always good.
How about religious issues or the format of religion? How important was that in your life? At the beginning or currently?
Well, I knew he was Lutheran, and I was Lutheran, and so I thought we would have no problems.
Well, after 59 years of marriage, we really haven't had any problems.
My father was a Methodist minister, and he was actually pastor at the little church where his family was for a while. So we kind of had the same kind of a background, but we did an awful lot of talking. We didn't have any money to go out or, pay any money to do anything when I would be home from college. So we spent the summer talking and reading to each other, and we talked a lot about everything, including religion and faith and all those kinds of things. So I think we really knew a lot about each other and our faith stories.
Yes?
Well, I was raised Lutheran in the old ELC, Norwegian Lutheran, and Bob was a Congregationalist. So at the University of Minnesota, we would go to Hope Lutheran or to the Congregational Church where they had a particularly good minister. When we got to Rochester, the Congregational minister was here at this church. So we went to that church for a while here and then joined Zumbro in the 70s. So we have a reluctant Lutheran to my right.
Lukewarm Lutheran is the way I look at it. But the talking we did about religion showed that we had the same basic beliefs. But joining a particular church was not the top of our list, I guess. What is your point?
You know what children are. Yeah. Well, I was commenting, and we talked about this with the other two here earlier, whether or not the children have followed in the tradition of the parents. We have 4 children, and 3 out of the 4 have become quite conservative in their religion and belong to praise churches, that kind of thing. And the 4th one is a member of Zumbro. She's the one that has graduate degrees in religion and ethics, and I think she probably is the most tolerant one of the lot. So it's not uncommon nowadays for children to not follow in the church they were raised in, and we have found that to be true in 3 out of 4 in our case.
Just briefly, Nancy's in law and I'm in medicine. We had 4 kids, none of which went into law or medicine. So we figured we're either completely unsuccessful or completely successful in raising our kids. We haven't quite decided that yet. Comments on your kids and maybe your religious affiliation first?
Well, our oldest daughter married in Ireland, lived in Scotland, lived in France, now lives in Italy. And I tell you, in France and Italy, there are no Lutheran churches or any Protestant church to speak of. And so they really miss a church. Her husband had said one time to me, he said, I actually would have liked to have been a minister, which surprised me. Our son lives in Arizona, and they do not go to church. They don't have any children. We took him with us once to Green Valley, where a friend of mine is a pastor there. And our son said, oh, I would go to this church if my wife would consider it, but she will not. And that was the end of that.
Yes.
We, like the Morrises, have 4 children, 3 girls and a boy. The girl, Shelley Sperling, everybody here probably knows Shelley, is very active in the church, and the other 3 are not. The son has no affiliation. Our youngest daughter keeps talking like she wants an affiliation with something, but doesn't act. And the one daughter that works at Mayo is evangelistic type of, like the Morris's daughters. So, who knows?
One of the many areas where we cannot control our children, I guess. Let me ask you this. What positive trait does your spouse have that you've never mentioned to him or her?
I got a couple, and I don't know whether I've said to him or not, but I love his sense of humor, and he makes me laugh, and I love that about it. And then the other thing, he comes up with some really unusual things to do at spur of the moment, and I love that. And I'm not sure I've ever said that to you, but I really appreciate those 2 things.
Dwayne and Addie.
I talk all the time, so I don't think I have not told him anything.
I do a lot of listening.
Yes. Well, let me tell you what I admire about you is your ability to get things done when it seems like there's no way to do it. Like this morning, you got up late. I didn't think you'd make it to church, and we did. But I think that trait is something I've admired, and yes.
That must be why you call me a bulldog. Well, I think what I've come to rely upon a lot with Bob is his calm assessment of situations. If the ceiling collapsed here in the room right now, I would be probably picking up pieces and getting a committee to help me. And Bob would look around. He would sit there and look, and he'd think very logically about what needed to be done. So he thinks, and he organizes things in his mind before he acts. And I appreciate that about him, because I often get a different perspective on things because of his ability to do that. So we're a good balance that way. While I'm cleaning the room, he can think about it.
Bob, I wanted to respond to
Yes, please.
June's comments. The thing probably that I've appreciated as much as anything over the years has been that if I come up with one of these harebrained ideas, why June's ready to jump on it no matter what it is, and that makes life a lot easier and a lot more fun.
How about interests? What mutual interests do you have and what individual interests, and does it make any difference would you encourage individual interests? You think that's a problem, or is that a good thing?
I think if you're going to have a marriage, you've got to have companionship. And one of the things I especially appreciate is sports. One day after we were retired, we walked by Soldiers Field and we saw the tennis court, and I said, look, that sits empty all day and we don't even know how to play. And I said, but the Tennis Connection has classes and you can learn. And Dwayne said, oh yeah, we'll go there and there'll be just young girls and we'll be some old fogies. So we went, and there were young girls. We finished the first session of classes, and then 2 young girls came up to us and said, we want to take another session of classes. Would you join us?
And we played tennis for quite a few years. In fact, it was just about, I think it's 3 years now since we've quit playing with the doubles group. And we also have done a lot of hiking together and skiing. And watching a lot of tennis on television. So I don't know, I think we're good friends.
What, do you have any interests? Does either of you have an interest that the other does not share?
Yes. Addie goes to Dan Abrams a lot, and I kind of should go, but kind of put it off. But I think I'm going to have to start because my clothes don't fit anymore.
Addie, any comment?
Well, I think sometimes you can have too much togetherness, and so I joined 4 women's golf leagues that I just play with women.
4.
Do your individual interests create a problem, or is it a good thing?
It's great.
About the Warrens?
Probably the most notable thing for me, as I look back, is the development of my interest in classical music. And because when I was raised, the extent of my exposure to music was Jesus Loves Me and In the Garden, church Sunday school music. And then the old Victrola we had up in our attic that had old 78 records, Big Rock Candy Mountain and Hallelujah, I'm on the Bum Again. So it was not very deep. But then in high school, we had a mutual great music teacher, and that started it all. She exposed, a lot like Bob Geary does here, exposed me to a lot of different styles of music. And I went off to college and took a class in music appreciation where, for some reason or other, it hit me. And so that's been a strong bond. And June started from a different position. She started when she was 2, I think, taking piano lessons, and so she's had a different exposure. But we both mutually love that style of music.
Well, we certainly have shared a lot of things, the music and a lot of things that we've done together. One thing that I've done separately, and I do the women's golf too separately. He does his league too, and play together once in a while. But I love to read books. I love to discuss books. I love to talk about ideas. And so that's something that I like to do in a book group. I love to come to the classes here at church. I love ideas and sometimes arguing, but I just love to explore that sort of thing.
Do you have an interest that he does not share?
What would that be? Well, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, talking over. Yeah, we both read, but I tend to get in it more seriously.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about Claire? Do you have an interest that June does not share?
Yeah, I've done a lot of coaching at the senior center and computer training and things like that. And at home.
Well, you had a motorcycle at one time.
Oh yes, yeah. But that was a mutual
Was that
thing.
mutual?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
love to ride a motorcycle, and so when we got to Rochester, I purchased one in about 1998, and we rode it up until, well, I was turning 80 and decided that the highways didn't need any more 80-year-olds out there. So, yeah, we enjoyed that mutually.
Ants?
We have had and continue to have different interests, but we also share the same interests, a lot of things. I like to play bridge. He does not care to do that. And he works out every morning at the Y, and I'm with Dwayne on that. Maybe we could meet for coffee.
You think he's at the Y. He's at Panera's.
Yeah, I know he goes there too. But we share a lot in the summer months. We have a cabin on an island up north on the Canadian border, and we have to go by boat to get there. So we've had that for years and years and years, and now that we're both retired, we can go up there for longer periods of time. And now it's very nice because they put an underwater cable out to the island of several homes out there. It's little local folks that have cabins, seasonal. But now we have actually running water. We can pump water from the lake for the showers. We carry drinking water or filter it. And we have electricity, so that has made a big difference in the last few years up there. Something about when you're in the 70s, an outhouse at 3 a.m. does not really appeal. So we enjoy it a lot up there, and we do a lot of walleye fishing. I think I can outfish him. But that's something we share. And I enjoy reading different things than he does, so we're very different in our recreational reading. Music, we pretty much have wide-ranging tastes. He's a little too heavy on the Frank Sinatra for my taste, but we listen to a lot of that in the car. So I'm demanding equal time now, though, so we have to work that out. Otherwise, I think we both enjoy sports, football games, etc. I don't enjoy the TV sports when there are teams that I've never heard of. But if it has a ball on the screen, he's watching it. Here, I'll let you add anything.
Well, I was going to compliment you because through your interest in classical music, I broadened my scopes from jazz to being somewhat interested in classical.